Claridge returned from a miserable episode with lap traffic at Tsukuba to withstand immense pressure at Brands Hatch and claim victory. Longtime rival Ove Trangrade could do nothing to find a way past Quick Mick, but interestingly, this second victory doesn't bring the Brit back to the top of the points. An astonishingly quick and consistent Rob Olenek continues to climb his way up the rungs on the ladder of reputation in this Lotus 49 series. But today's visit to VIR could be make or break for a few drivers. Known for harshly punishing any mistakes, this track could catch out any driver at any moment. We'll see how things shake out as we get ready to watch round 4 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series. And you'll see it all live on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Johan Vandenbelt. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Johan, what's incredible is this layout of VIR hasn't been seen by the Lotus 49 series since 2015.
Yeah, a very long time, and that was one of the things that you could see in practice. A lot of drivers seem to have trouble keeping the car on the grey stuff. And because even though VIR is one of the oldest iRacing tracks, it doesn't get as much love as other circuits do. This track has some history though. It was originally constructed in 1957 and VIR is mostly known for endurance racing. For 2 decades IMSA could be found here, but financial troubles meant that it had to be closed until 1998. After that, the VIR 2.0, so to speak, venue hosts 7 different layouts, and we'll visit the 5.2 full course today. Now, I mentioned that drivers seem to have a little bit of trouble at this track in practice, but that's not only because of a lack of practice. I think that VIR is a very tricky track. It is narrow, it has off-camber corners and plenty of bumps to catch unaware drivers out. And at the same time, it hosts a big amount of very easy curves that are almost straight until you try to tackle them in the Lotus 49. Because of this, I imagine that qualifying will be very important, Joe. But before we see where things stand, let's go on board our GSRC Lotus 49 as we take you for a lap around the track.
All right, we've got Mick Claridge in the GSRC Lotus 49, so let's do a lap around VIR. Down the front stretch, which isn't totally straight, you might find yourself counter-steering just to keep it together. And if you do, you can sometimes get an opportunity to try and pass into the horseshoe. This is a tricky corner though, because not only does it have a late and double apex, it opens up on the exit, making it tough to apply the power. Then there's the kink to the left in the midst of the braking for NASCAR bend. Put a wheel in the grass and expect to find yourself spinning towards the barrier. After that is the left hook, which is actually more like a chicane with the immediate right that follows. If anything, you get no rest at all because the corner then arcs its way into the snake. You've got to tiptoe your way through, but also try to carry your speed as best you can because you'll get a fair amount of it on your way under the bridge towards the climbing S's. Here's where it really gets scary because putting your foot wrong just once through this fast series of corners will leave you flying off the track into the Armco. If you reach the top, you've then got South Bend where the track absolutely drops away just as you're trying to apply the throttle. And of course, that flows into the infamous Oak Tree where you're braking and turning, all while trying to get the car set up for the most important corner exit of the track. You see, as we come onto the backstretch, you've hit the longest acceleration zone of the circuit, so hesitating on the power will really hurt your lap times. But you don't even get to relax here because the car is going to be dancing around with the high speeds not playing nice with the big crests and bumps. Eventually, it culminates in one of the most difficult corners in racing, the roller coaster. There's a blind crest right as the track bends to the left, but then you've got a sharp right immediately following it. On top of that, the runoff is all downhill, so going off track will lose you gobs of time trying to return to the circuit. The last challenge you'll face is the hog pin. It's another downhill braking zone, and another time you'll be trying to turn the car while slowing it up. At the bottom is a double apex begging you to get back on the throttle so that you can get plenty of speed up the pit straight. But hopefully you've now finished a lap around VIR. Numbers there. Up at the top, as I said, Rob Olenek still leading the way into the third round. Bill talked about it last week, though, that the drop points will come into play, and that will probably change things around a little bit. But Olenek's consistency should keep him within range. Matt Wright moves down 1 since Mick took a second victory. Ove Trangrade actually jumps up 2 and ties with Matt there in the points. And then don't forget Marco Kika continuing to prove that he is finding speed is the Finn, sitting down in 5th. What about the F2 championship? It sounds like that's getting a little bit interesting there, Johan.
Yeah, absolutely. On the lead at the moment is the UK driver Hugh Haycox. He had a bad run in Brands Hatch, but his good result in Tsukuba from the week before means that he can still retain the championship lead. But behind him, you can see the gaps to Francisco Gutierrez and Hideki Kofisto. They've closed it down to 2 and 3 points. It's very close there, especially Hideki Kofisto. That's one of the drivers that you have to keep an eye on because he actually missed the race in Tsukuba. So his score is just based on 2 race results. Behind him, Colin Coker and Michael Wright Reinhardt complete the top 5, but there's another driver that you have to keep your eye on. That's a driver P9 in the championship, Grant Petullo. He won last time around in Brands Hatch. He's here today. I'd be very surprised where he will end up.
And then, of course, on the constructors, let's take a look at where the Nations Cup is. Only 4 points between the UK and the US. Have been German trying hard to hold up the third position. Roman Pawlowski, of course, has been fast, but has been lacking wins. Australia tied with Norway, which is held down by 2 single drivers, Wright and Trangerade. What about today's race details? I have to imagine with a bit of a longer track, not too many laps out here.
No, not at all. It's round 4 of our 12-round championship, and as you can see, only 20 laps today here at VIR. Qualifying times are getting on the board. Lap times are around 1 minute 46 seconds, so basically means that around 35 minutes and then the race will be over. The setups for the drivers will be open, and points they will pay out to 25th position. With 19 drivers, that means that everyone will score some points.
Of course, once again, we are watching this race on the iRacing Esports Network. If you'd like to find more of this racing series in your YouTube feed, all you got to do is subscribe. Click the big red button that says subscribe on IESN's YouTube page. And the iRacing Esports Network will have more Lotus 49 showing up for you. Taking a look at the qualifying effort. Well, last week, Ove Trangerade certainly kept Mick Claridge honest, and it looks like he's going to be doing more of the same unless Mick can get a faster second lap in here, because right now it's about 2/10 between Ove and Nick.
Yeah, but one good thing for Mick Claridge is that he is currently doing a second lap time. Ove Trangerade made a mistake on the second lap, so he only gets 1 qualifying effort. That's at 46.1. Mick Claridge, like you say, Joe, he has to win 2/10 of a second to get that pole position. Behind them, one of the drivers that we were talking about in the standings, Marco Kika, amazing qualifying effort from the Finn. He was currently sitting in P3. He's just ousted from that by Rob Olenek, who goes P2.
And looks like Ove is going to get back out for a little bit of warm-up, but it's now down to most likely Mick Claridge to see what he can do with the pole. Gary Teal is still out there, and he is sometimes fast, but I'm not sure if he's going to have the pace today to get better than Quick Mick. Down through Hogpen. He should be able to get this in before the end of qualifying. Just less than 2 minutes left to go, and then we go racing today for round 4. Up and across the start-finish line. What is the second one going to hold? It's faster, a 45.6. And it does put him on pole by almost half a second over the number 6 car. A stunning lap by Mick Claridge.
Absolute blistering lap from him. That puts him well clear of Ove Trangerade. Now let's see who's still on their lap. Gary Teal is coming across. He has done both of his qualifying laps, so he won't go any quicker. He actually goes to a halt now. Maybe we can take a look at Andrew Anglia on track at the moment. Does he have both his laps on already? As well, he's currently sitting in P12. Benjamin Soko, that's one of the drivers that we haven't seen for a while, Joe. He also has done both his qualifying laps already, but interestingly enough, he didn't manage to set a single time. So both his laps, he got an off track. That means that Benjamin Soko, when he shows up, always one of the quicker drivers, one of the drivers that can fight for a podium position. He's outside the top 15.
Yeah, going to be a very tough day on a track like this one for Ben Zoko. As you mentioned, used to be a regular. Unfortunately, just because of the time shifts that this series goes through when daylight savings time happens, he had to step away because down in Australia, things the starting time changed for him too much to be able to stay with it. Let's see, Robert Reynolds, of course, did not get a lap time in. He's going to start at the back. Colin Coker not going to be able to finish his second lap in time. And with the clock ticking down, that's going to be the end of qualifying. Let's go through our starting grid. Mick Claridge, as we mentioned, on the pole by a huge margin over Ove Trangerade. Maybe Ove will have a little bit better race pace, and we'll see a repeat of last week. Rob Olenek will be starting in third, our points leader, continuing his consistency with Marco Kika on the outside of row 2 next to him. Gary Teal will start in 5th. 5th, with Phil Lake coming in once again to start in 6th. Hugh Haycox will start in 7th, and Matt Wright P8. Then it's Grant Petullo in 9th, and Daniel Sadro rounds out your top 10.
Just outside the top 10 is the other Haycox, Ian. He is on P11. He's flanked by Andrew Eng. Row 7 will be shared by Armin Weber and Hideki Koifisto. Colin Coker is the last driver with a timed lap at 1:53. Then there's 4 drivers without a lap time. Benjamin Soko starts on the outside of row 8. Bruce Nelson and Francisco Javier Gutierrez can be found on row 9. And Robert Reynolds will round out the grid in P19.
So a decently sized field for a track that's known for sometimes being a little unpopular. Glad to see this sort of turnout here today in the Lotus 49 series. Question is, how many are going to get to the finish? It is tough enough in modern cars, but in this old machinery, I'm curious how many will be able to survive around here. I know I have a particularly miserable memory myself where I gave away the lead at this track by my own error. And I wouldn't be shocked if a few followed suit. You can see them all lined up on the grid. We're just waiting on Teal, the last of the group, and then we get to go racing for 20 laps here in round 4. And he plops himself down on the grid. So the engines start to rev. The lights come up. Green flag is out. It's a decent start from Mick Claridge. Not a good one for Ove Tranquerade. Very poor off the line. Olenek takes advantage of it. He gets up in a second before the braking for the horseshoe. A little bit of side-by-side action in the mid-pack. But otherwise, it's looking good so far as they work their way out of turn 1.
Marco Kika and Hugh Haycock still side by side, but now as they go towards the NASCAR bend, it's Marco Kika who gets a position. He's down to P5. Battle for the lead. Rob Olenek puts it side by side with Mick Claridge. Still side by side as they go through this very twisty section, but on the inside it's Mick Claridge with more momentum. He gets the position as they go to the S's. Gary Teal behind him gets side by side with Ove Tranquerade in the S's. You don't want to be side by side as Gary Teal winning the position. Ove Tranquerade losing a lot of momentum, and there's another Finn now on the inside. Marco Kika trying to make the position, so Ove Tranquerade as Hugh Haycox almost gets by him as well. Goes from P2 to P5.
And we had a car off. That was Matt Wright narrowly avoiding the barriers. Otherwise, it looks like they were going to get through the climbing S's for the first time. Now they hit Oak Tree. It is still Mick Claridge up at the front. And you can see a car off there in South Bend. Oh, and it's a massive pileup coming out of Oak Tree. Looks like Grant Petullo involved. Yeah,
Philip Blake was turned around by Grant Petullo. That caused everyone behind him to bunch up. It seems like all the drivers are going again. Philip Blake seems to be okay with his car. In the back, a little bit in the back of the field, Benjamin Soko is winning a position. He's overtaking Andrew Eng as the Risorolico.
Let's take a look at the replay of Matt Wright. I believe this was the incident in the climbing S's. I wonder if this was due to the checkup with Tranquerade up ahead. You can see them going side by side.
No, it was contact with Ian Haycox. Look behind him. He just gets torpedoed there by Ian Haycox. I think that Ian just completely missed his braking point or something.
And then
or just didn't realize everyone in front was just way slower than him, but he completely rams it from behind.
This is Phil Lake's incident. Oh, he was side by side with the car ahead. And then it looks as though, I'm trying to remember who that was. I think it was Sadro that got into him.
Petullo.
Petullo, excuse me. Yes, thank you. Yeah, Petullo just trying to take advantage. And unfortunately, the space was not there. So we come back live. And who was that being overtaken?
Colin Coker being overtaken by Philip Blake. Yeah, that's a good thing about all the action that we saw lap 1. Only one retirement, fortunately. That could have been a lot worse. Only Matt Wright is sitting in the pits. Philip Blake is, after his spin, just moving forward. He's currently sitting in P15 after he just overtook Colin Coker. That's Grant Petullo, I think, going through the grass. That is in Oak Tree. A little bit too much speed. He loses positions to both Francisco Gutierrez, Philip Blake, and also to Colin Coker.
Second lap in a row as side-by-side action between Haycox and Trangarade. Trangarade manages to get by into fifth. It has not been a good start for the driver who was on the front row at the green flag. Now, currently going to have to chase down Claridge about 6 seconds behind our leader. Olenek actually set the fastest lap from P2. He is chasing down our number 1 car. And Gary Teal, with all that action, has shuffled up to P3, having started 5th on the grid.
Yeah, very good start for Gary Teal. Last time around, he had a 46.5. He is around the same pace as Mick Claridge is. But like you said, Rob Olenek seems to be the man on the mission at the moment. He brought the gap down to under 0.5 of a second crossing start's finish line. You can see through the S's he has brought it down a little bit further. These 3 drivers are on top of it. Behind them, Marco Kika cannot follow the pace with a 47 last time around. He has to start looking behind, see if he can keep over Trangarade behind him. The gap between those 2 drivers is around a second at the moment.
As we watch the Finn work his way through South Bend, it's worth noting that Olenek took his first victory in the Lotus 49 Series broadcast 2 weeks ago at Tsukuba. And since then has certainly been on a tear. He loses a little time down the backstretch. It increases to about 0.7 of a second up to Mick Claridge, so not going to have a chance to try and pass on the roller coaster quite this time. But if he keeps him in check, mistakes can be easy around here, and then something might open the door.
Move happening for P13. Philip Blake is getting by Arvin Weber. Philip Blake, like we said, he spun early in the race, working on his comeback at the moment. Getting by Arvin Weber, and Francisco Javier Gutierrez isn't that far in front as well. So Philip Blake is starting to recover from his spin early in the race, slowly making his way to the top 10.
Down through Hogpen. Let's see if he can get himself a run off of here. Nope, a mistake ought to do it, as Gutierrez slides wide in that final right-hander. 2 positions gone in a flash. Weber also sneaking through.
And that's one of the things that we haven't talked about is the weather today, because we see a lot of cars sliding, making mistakes. I think, Joe, that's because of the temperature. The track is a whopping 50 degrees Celsius, 122 degrees Fahrenheit. It is blistering barbecue weather in Virginia. Now, this will mean that the tires will be cooking alive at the moment. The cars are very, very slidey, and you can just see that on track. The drivers seem to struggle a lot with getting the car gripped up, especially in these quick access corners. And they really have to keep an eye on that and just try to maybe take it a little bit calmer at this moment to just cool the tires down.
We need to start keeping track, a tally of the hottest temperatures we've ever seen, because I'm thinking that might be it. Just incredible.
Yeah, Michael Kika is one of those drivers who just suffered a huge slide through the S's, through turns 7 and 8 it was. That immediately catches over Trangarade up, so battle for P4 over Trangarade with a good run out of Oak Tree. Swinging it to the inside is the Reese roller coaster. Yeah, nothing that Michael Kika could do there after that horrible run that he had, probably very 1 tires after his slide. That is 1 position down for the Finn. He's now in P5.
Got to give credit to Olve after that bad start. He's doing a good job trying to recover. It's another 3.5 seconds up to Gary Teal, so he's got a little work to do to try and run the American down. Which we should point out that... and Kika had a problem on the front stretch.
Whoa! It's so close with Andrew there.
And unfortunately, this was Hogpin that sent him spinning into the Armco.
Too much speed, just not scrubbing enough speed of the car before that.
Yeah,
putting both left side tires on the grass and it just spins him around, Joe.
We're going to watch on board. So this is Andrew Ang's perspective, seeing the car come back on true. Whoa.
Wow.
Heart in your throat. So unfortunately, that caused Kiko to have to take a tow. Marco, unfortunately, too damaged to continue. So we jump up to 5th place. This is Hugh Haycox, just ahead of Ian Haycox. Father and son racing next to each other once again.
And especially Ian Haycox is, after that contact that he had lap 1 that destroyed the front part of his car, he's just continuing a very steady run this race, already gaining 5 positions so far. And it seems like Ian is slightly quicker than you at the moment. Last time around a 47.4 versus a 47.5, so not a lot of difference. Just closing the gap down steadily.
What impresses me about these two is not only is it interesting that we've got a father and son so close on pace, but that have such good pace. They are, at least in Hugh's case, in the top 5. And in these cars, that's not easy to come by.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things that we also should put some emphasis on. Hugh Haycox, of course, is leading the Formula 2 championship, so with a P5 result overall here, he will do amazing business for himself in that championship, just extending that gap that Francisco Javier Gutierrez and Hideki Kofisto almost completely closed down towards.
Well, did Ang actually have contact with Kika last lap, because he's come into the pits? I'm going back to see if there's anything that happened.
He had a little moment after that, a few corners after he had that very scare with Kika. There was a NASCAR bend left hook. He went off the circuit there. It seems like he didn't have any damage, so he's also back on track at the moment. I don't exactly know what happened with Andrew Ang. Maybe he can come in for an interview afterwards, we can ask him. But good news for him that he is back on track. But he is, though, in P16. He has lost a lot of positions.
Wonder if maybe he forgot to put race fuel in. It's a 18-second stop, so it seems a little short for repairs. Meanwhile, oh, and Armin Weber has found trouble. This also in the climbing S's. Such a fast and tricky part of the circuit.
Absolutely, car gets loose there. Little jump over that crest, and just the car loses completely control after that. He tries to save it, but the DS driver just slapped.
Yeah,
he probably is out of the race. Go ahead, Joe.
Most likely. I mentioned myself giving away the lead once, and that looked pretty close to exactly what happened to me. The DH driver is indeed in the pit lane already.
Let's go to P7, battle between Benjamin Soko and Daniel Sadro, and I think that Benjamin Soko seals the deal there. That's in turn 1. The Australian gets by Daniel Sadro there. We mentioned Benjamin Soko not setting a qualifying lap. He is already up 9 positions since the start of the race, and you can see it here. Just a great run out of the final corner, great run over start, finish straight, and just textbook maneuver from him on the inside. Daniel Sadro tried to take a look a few corners after that, but he has to slot back in as they go towards the SS. That's P7 for Benjamin Soko.
And only 7 laps into this race, up to P7 for Ben. Up next, going to be a little ways to catch Ian Haycox. It's about 5 seconds up the road.
That was Benjamin Soko. I think we mentioned the Haycox is a little bit too soon, because now it's Daniel Sadro again that you have to overtake, because what a moment that was for the Australian. Exactly the same place as we saw Armin Weber make a mistake last time around. This was not because of a small lift off on the bump, just it almost seems like he started to slide on the apex. Great save from Benjamin Soko, though, to not lose control on the grass there.
Well, lost the position back to Daniel Sadro, so he's got to redo all that hard work. As all this has been going on, Rob Olenek has been staying within half a second of Mick Claridge. This has seemingly been something of a repeat of last week, except instead of Trangarade chasing down Mick, it is now Rob Olenek. But I wonder if this comes to one of the tricks that Mick's revealed to us about changing his tire pressures to get a good run off the line. I wonder if that's what's causing him to maybe bottle up the cars behind here.
That could very well be it. It's just very interesting also to look at the gap between these two drivers. It's almost like they're on a yo-yo with each other. One lap it is 5/10 like it currently is. Next lap it is around a second. And then Rob Olenek finds some speed and closes the gap down again. These drivers seem to be on exactly the same pace, but they cannot maintain the pace for every lap in a row. They just have to cool down, lose a little bit of pace, some of those laps, and then the next one they're right back at it. So very interesting to see how these two drivers are battling it out at the moment, and at the same time Gary Thiel, he cannot follow suit at the moment. The gap to P3 has in the meantime increased to over 5 seconds, so I don't think that Gary Thiel will be putting some pressure on Rob Olenek anytime soon.
Yeah, if anything, Thiel's looking in his mirrors, because we mentioned Ove Trangerade having to chase him down. Well, he's cut that down to about a second and a half. So I think the Norwegian has his eyes set on a podium finish. I don't think Gary's going to give that away easily, though.
No, I don't think so either. If you're in a podium position on this track, I think you're going to fight tooth and nail to keep that position. In the meantime, talking about defending positions, let's go back to Daniel Sedro, because Benjamin Soko has caught up with him as they go over the back straight towards the roller coaster. Benjamin Soko in the draft takes a little look on the inside, thinks the better of it, and slots back in there. This is an area of the circuit now as they go through the roller coaster where overtaking is very difficult. You have a quick succession of left-handers, right-handers. Only one racing line that's kind of possible here. But as they go through Hogpen, this is where you have to set yourself up and basically do the same as Benjamin Soko did a few laps ago. Get a good run here and try it again in turn 1. The gap this time, however, seems to be a little bit bigger. I don't think that Benjamin Soko is close enough to try and move. He gets closer slightly in the draft, but it's under braking. Has to wait. Cannot make the move stick in turn 1, but he's closing the gap, Joe. He's closing the gap for sure.
Sadro with an excellent defense, getting a good run off the corner. From here, it's a lot of technical bends left and right, offering little in the way of opportunity to try and overtake. So Zoko just waits patiently behind. Should point out that Phil Lake is closing the gap on them too. Remember, he was set backwards by that first lap incident. The number 4 car could find himself in a 3-way fight pretty soon.
Yeah, that's one of. I just wanted to say Benjamin Soko can maybe wait a little bit because he knows that he's quicker than Daniel Sedro. He already passed him once. But at the same time, Philip Lake is closing in, so he should want to pass Daniel as soon as possible, so he doesn't have Philip Lake breathing down his neck anytime soon. As they go through Oak Tree, this is probably one of the best overtaking points of the track. If you get a good exit here, but just look at that growing immediately. Benjamin Soko taking too much speed on the apex there and can go later on the throttle. That really helps Daniel Sedro defend his position, but it is a very long straight over the final bump here. To go to the braking zone of roller coaster, once again he's just too far to try and move there.
I love getting this onboard view down the backstretch because you can see how much the cars are bouncing around even in a straight line. It shocked me looking because it has been a while since we've been here. Just seeing the onboard when I made the lap guide is a big correction there from Zoko through the final corner. The onboard with Mick Claridge around the lap, how much the car was dancing around in some of these fast straights.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I always feel I struggle with when I try this car on this track, because it's just all those bumps you have to keep in mind, because you saw Armin Weber struggle with that early in the race and he couldn't save his car after he went over a crest like that. He lost control, but that's so easy to do in the Lotus 49. So it's just one of the extra challenges the drivers have to keep an eye on. Daniel Sedro making a mistake though. That is in turn 4, the left hook, taking too much speed there. Going over the grass, losing that position to Benjamin Soko. So Benjamin, the only thing that he had to do that time around was wait, and he is now back to P7.
And let's jump back up to P3 because here comes Ove Trangerade. He's got a fantastic run this time. I'm not sure if Gary Thiel will have a way to hold him back because he's close enough for a slipstream as they pick up speed. The Norwegian going to duck to the inside of the first part of the corner, but that's going to be the outside of the second half of roller coaster. He actually goes a little bit off track, and somehow Gary Thiel keeps him behind. They've got lap traffic in front of them. This is Colin Coker, who's a little bit off pace. He's trying to pull out of the way, just barely getting out of there in time.
Over Trangerate saw that happening. Ooh, as he puts both wheels on the grass, barely saves it over Trangerate. He saw Colin Coker. He tried a different line to immediately dive on the inside of Gary Thiel. Great thought of him, but it just didn't pay out, and he has to recuperate after this, try to chew back that momentum that he.
Some very tense moments here throughout the field. Now halfway through the race, Gary Thiel, you see, and the white machine in third place. Ove Trangerade, who may have started in second, fell all the way back to sixth. He's now recovered to fourth and is looking to try to move back onto the podium, but is having a difficult time with the local driver hailing from the Virginias, Gary Thiel, looking for a good finish here at a home track.
Around 0.8 of a second between these two drivers, so let's maybe jump back to Philip Blake at the moment, because we were talking about him and he has closed down the gap to Daniel Cedro after Daniel's mistake. As they go through the S's at the moment, there's less than 2/3 between these two drivers. In front of them you can see a little speck getting smaller and smaller. That's the Australian Benjamin Soko. He's trying to drive away from this battle as quick as he can, because I think that of these three drivers, Philip Blake is the quickest, Joe.
Yeah, Philip Blake is certainly all over Sadro like a bad suit. And he's close enough he could take a peek in Oak Tree, but I'm thinking he won't want to there. Waits patiently behind, looking to set up the run off the corner. Maybe just a little too wide through there. Sadro starts to streak away, and I don't think the pass is going to happen at this point. So let's check in with our top two, because we haven't looked at Claridge and Olenek for a while. But that gap is grown slightly. It is about 0.8 now back to the number 2 machine.
I think the battle that is heating up is the one for P3. Let's go to that, because Over Trangerate is trying a move on the outside of turn 1. Gary Thiel's defending the inside, side by side through turn 1. That inside one has less track to cover, so Gary Thiel can stay in front, but Over Trangerate is putting the pressure on it as they go towards NASCAR bend. The Norwegian trying to close down the gap. This is not a place where you can make an overtake. Only when the driver in front makes a mistake. Gary Thiel slows it down just enough to keep it on track as they reach the S's. This is a very difficult part of the track. You have to follow here, Joe. You cannot make the overtake yet. You just have to set yourself up for a good run out of Oak Tree.
Certainly, Thiel is making life a bit of a headache for Trangerade. You can see how much more pace he has, as once again he gets right underneath the gearbox of Gary. Through South Bend, they swing it, plunging through the valley up towards Oak Tree now. This is where we saw Trangerade get incredibly close to get side by side even. Can he get it this time? Oh, he's incredibly close. That purple machine could have an even better opportunity. They climb up the hill, bounding over the crests. The car closes in the slipstream. Last time he chose the left side. Once again, he's going to be to the left, but this time he's farther ahead. Can he chop off the nose? Not quite. But he's still holding it side by side. They're going to come back downhill out of the roller coaster towards Hogpen. Gary Thiel not willing to give up the ghost. Still wheel to wheel. Neither car is willing to relinquish this third place, and it is going to be a drag race up the front stretch. This could be hairy around these kinks.
Wow, that little wiggle from Over Trangerade almost just caravening into Gary Thiel there on the inside. Gary Thiel still has the inside of the racing. The inside of turn 1 as well. Over Trangerade has to go the long way around. He's sliding a little bit more at the apex, and that actually means that Gary Thiel fends him off. What an amazing defensive maneuver from Gary Thiel to just not give up. Stay there on the inside and just get that P3 position back. Over Trangerade has to slot in behind him, literally where we left off 1 lap ago, and he has to try it one more time.
Robust defense from Thiel. And as that was happening, a pass for Philip Lake over Daniel Sadro. Let's see where exactly this went down. Oh, in an unusual spot, coming out of South Bend up to Oak Tree.
Yeah, he just had a great run out of the S's and took a little look to the inside. I don't think that Philip Blake actually tried to make the overtake stick there, but Daniel Sadro gave him the room to put his nose in, and Philip Blake said thank you very much and just went by there. So that's Philip Blake back to P8, and he will try now to close down the gap to Benjamin Soko. But let's go back to that P3 battle, because Over Trangerade once again is very... Oh, as we see, Hideko Kafisto making a mistake there.
Yeah, another driver to fall victim to the snake, and then unfortunately, Grant Petullo clipped him on his way through. So,
like I said, the battle for P3 is going on as Overtranger almost loses control there. Too greedy on the throttle, trying to stay close with Gary Thiel and put himself in a good position to try and move down turn 1. And that fails, and that means that he loses immediately 7 to 8 car lengths. And has to work hard to recover that. In front of them, it's the lap car of Robert Reynolds. Might be a little cockney equation here at the moment. Robert Reynolds is driving around P15, 2 laps down, but a good race for him because he has gained 4 positions since the start of the race. He will now be passed by Gary Thiel and Overtranger. Robert stays on the outside as the Reed's NASCAR band. Overtranger very careful there, going around Robert Reynolds, and that loses him again a little bit of time towards Gary Thiel.
Yeah, some hesitation. He does have 7 laps to go, so I think Ove, knowing that he's got better pace than Gary, is just wanting to try and play it safe. Other than these two, really the last battle that we've got left now is between both Haycoxes. Granted, ever since Lake got by Sadro, he's started to reel in Zoko. If that gets closer, we'll jump over to them. But this is Ian and Hugh working their way through the climbing S's. The leading car is Ian, the older of the two, based in the UK. His son Hugh studying over in France, racing from across the channel. He's going to try and set him up out of the oak tree. Let's see what he's got.
And it's very interesting to see this battle because if viewers remember at the beginning of the broadcast, it was Hugh in front of Ian. Around lap 9 he got passed by his father, but he is having a great run here out of Oak Tree. More speed, but he seems to think the better of it. Doesn't want to put this car side by side as it reaches the roller coaster. I think that Hugh Haycox might just be very content, Joe, with the position that he's in. He will finish P6. He will win the Formula 2 race here at VIR if it stays like this. And like I said, will do great business.
That was a little lapped car of Robert Reynolds trying to stay out of their way. Wonder if there's a respect your elders rule in that house, and Hugh is having to stay behind Ian to the line now that his dad is ahead. He's got about 5/10 to him, so all it will take is one mistake from Ian, and I'm sure Hugh will be able to slip through. Behind them, it is now cut down to half a second between Lake and Zoko. Zoko having to come forward from lacking a lap time in qualifying. Lake having to come forward, having made a mistake, having had problems on the first lap in Oak Tree. Once again, having to deal with Robert Reynolds trying to stay out of everybody's way. Not going to offer an opportunity to Lake quite yet.
No, but it's good to see for Philip Blake how he just recovers here, because the amount of positions that he has gained since his spin at the opening parts of the race has been very impressive, gaining around 10 positions. So really interested to see where he will end up. Let's go in the meantime to the battle for P3, however, as Overtranger once again has a great run through Oak Tree, putting the pressure on Gary Thiel. Once again, this is the battle for P3 as they come across the Bragg Straight. We've seen it closer around this point a few laps ago. I think that the Norwegian is close enough to maybe try a little move on the inside. He gets closer under braking, takes a little look on the inside, but he's just too far away to put it side by side with Gary Thiel. Now, a few laps ago here, it was where he was very greedy on throttle, lost a lot of time. This time around, he can stay close, however, he slides a little bit more. Cannot touch the apexes as well as Gary Thiel does, but as they come around the final corner, Hotpan, back onto the start-finish straight, there's around 3 car lengths between the two. Overtranger just really staying in the gearbox there of Gary Thiel, trying to get every little bit of draft as he can, taking a little look on the inside, sliding, braking with 3 right wheels on the grass, makes it stick, but cannot get this car slow down. And that means that Gary Thiel gets the position back. Overtranger losing a lot of time with that. He doesn't have to fear from the Haycoxes, they are too far behind, but Overtranger losing, I think, around 3-4 seconds to Gary Thiel now, and that is a lot of time to recover with only 5 laps to go, Joe.
Yeah, that might be all she wrote for Overtranger trying to get up to that podium spot. Just tantalizingly close. And meanwhile, something's happened for the lead, because Olenek, who was about 8/10 behind Claridge, has cut it down to 3/10 of a second. I wonder how aggressive Rob is going to be trying to take the win away from Claridge. Claridge on 2 ends this season, Olenek on 1. doesn't get the jump off of Oak Tree, and I don't think he's close enough to attack up to Roller Coaster.
Yeah, but that was really the last lap time of Rob Olenek. That was just very impressive. It was the fastest lap of the race. If he wouldn't have had an off-track somewhere in that lap, it was a 45.6. If you compare it with McLaren's last time around, a 46.1. So 0.6 of a second. Rob Olenek won there. And you can see visually on screen that the gap has decreased to around 0.5 of a second as they come through Hockpen. A little bit more space between them than with Gary Thielen over Triangle 8 last time around, so I don't think that Rob Olenek will try and move coming turn 1. As they come across start-finish line, it is basically nothing between these two drivers, Joe. 0.4 of a second, Rob Olenek was quicker, so he is quicker, and he just seems to be on the pace now compared to McLaren, but the gap between them, the speed difference between them last time around was very, very small.
Obviously trying to apply a little bit of pressure now that Rob has got a whiff of the lead. 4 laps to go. Can he do anything to try to take down one of the more dominant forces in this series in the history of the Lotus 49 on iRacing? Olenek very much a newcomer to this car compared to Mick Claridge. We've seen him race over in the Camel GT series for a long time, but has adapted to this wingless machine very, very well. Started out mid-pack and then crept his way forward until now he's been challenging for wins. We're not missing much through the rest of the field. If it gets close through there, we'll jump back to some of the battles that are still close, because the Haycoxes are within range of one another, and of course Zoko and Lake are still within less than a second.
Little bit of lap traffic might play a factor now as well. Will be Andrew Eng, the next live, and then will be lapped. He's driving around at P13, around 3 seconds in front of Mick Claridge. As they come down the roller coaster, set themselves up through Hockpen. I would say that the gap is closing down even more, around 0.3 of a second between these two drivers. Rob Olenek, like you said, Joe, is just putting more and more pressure on Mick Claridge over start-finish line. I'm very curious to see the speed difference lap time-wise last time around. This time it was around 0.1 of a second that Rob Olenek was closer. So he can put the pressure more and more on the Brit in front of him, but the Brit just seems uncrackable at this point. And Rob Olenek has to really try something creative to get by. Maybe something with lap traffic or something in a position where he wouldn't expect it, like there! Take a little look on the inside of NASCAR Ben. That's what I meant. Just try and surprise Mick Claridge to get that P1 position away from him, because otherwise I think it will be very difficult to best Mick.
I don't know if we've got time to look away from this. We did have a pass, I can report. Hugh Haycox took advantage of Ian's error in Oak Tree to slip through the inside. Let's stay with this battle for the lead as Olenek obviously getting more and more hungry. You talked about the lap traffic of Andrew Ang up ahead of them. They've been slowly but surely getting closer to the back of that green car. And as they catch him on the backstretch, so look at this. Andrew is heads up. He pulls off to the side. He doesn't want to try and interrupt this. And wow, a bad exit off of Oak Tree. Look at all the time that Rob Olenek lost in that one corner.
Yeah, he was too excited going onto the throttle now and just lost a lot of time with that. Now we go to a replay of that overtake that we saw between you and Ian Haycox. This happened last time around, as you mentioned, Joe, as they went through Oak Tree. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I said it might take a mistake, and that's what it was. Just a little too wide of the first apex, and Hugh said, "Thank you very much, that one is mine."
And it seems like Ian Haycox is a little bit off the pace in general at the moment. Last time around through Oak Tree, again, he had a mistake, little half spin. That means that he has lost a lot of time to his son. Now let's go back. We see on screen the battle for the lead. Rob Olenek, less than around 2/10 of a second between himself and Mick Claridge.
Eyes are getting...
It is so close, yeah. This is getting very exciting. And you just feel the tension because of this. Because if Rob Olenek doesn't get by Mick Claridge, he will lose the lead in the championship, I think. And also with drop week still on the mix, you know that Rob Olenek just has to grab moments like this where he has a chance, a whiff of a win with both hands if he wants to beat Mick Claridge in the championship at the end of the season.
There's still 21 points between them, but I think you're right that when the drop weeks are taken into account, it should allow him to be up front. But boy, the eyes of Rob Olenek are certainly memorizing the gearbox of Mick Claridge as they come off of Oak Tree. Oh, this is a very good one. This is the best opportunity we've seen for the number 2 car. He gets in the slipstream, rides right in the tire tracks of Mick Claridge, up and over the hills. He's going to take the left side of the track as Mick Claridge looking to try to fend him off in the second half of the corner. He's strong on the brakes, very strong on the brakes. Down to the apex of roller coaster, Mick Claridge still denies Rob Olenek a chance at the lead.
That was amazing defensive maneuver from Mick to just get his car slowed down the way he did, like he's using different brakes than Rob Olenek did. Because the way he got his car slowed down was otherworldly compared to Rob behind. Rob loses a few tenths of a second because of that. So you can see the gap between them is now around 4 tenths of a second. So no move going towards turn 1. Robert Reynolds is again just in front of them. He will be lapped, but I don't think that he will be lapped on the straight now. I think this will be in the S's, so that actually might play a bigger factor than we saw happen with Andrew Ng a few laps ago.
I thought maybe for a second it was, oh, there he goes. Now he pulls over just before left hook. Final lap, white flag. Rob Olenek only has a couple more chances to try and get the lead away. He certainly did himself a good favor out of Oak Tree last time, but can he repeat that? And did he learn anything from it? They reach the climbing S's. He's a little too far back for now. That could yet change. Do they have any other lap traffic? No, this is just down to these two, all the way to the checkered flag. Up into Oak Tree. This is the critical moment. What can Rob Olenek do off the corner? The answer seems to be not enough, because Mick Claridge finds the grip out of that right-hander and keeps himself just out of arm's reach. However, he has to keep the mistakes away in these final few bends. Braking into roller coaster, looking nice and smooth. Olenek gains a little bit of time, but not enough. Now plunging downhill through hog pen. Mick Claridge just has one last corner to hit the throttle. And it's looking good for Mick Claridge to take his 3rd win of the season. Up and across the line. Your winner today, Mick Claridge. Olenek following him home by only 3 tenths of a second. And Gary Teal has been run down by Ove Trangarade, but I think he's also going to withstand the pressure. Ove, too little, too late. Teal going to take a podium today.
Behind him, the battle for P7, that's the closest one that we have. Benjamin Soko and Philip Blake. Philip Blake had a great run through the S's, couldn't capitalize on that. Benjamin Soko was better out of Oak Tree, so he stayed in front over the back straight as they come across the last corner of the race. Now just in front of them is Ian Haycox. He will not play a factor in this. Philip Blake trying everything he can through Hockman, but it's not enough, so he has to settle for P8 in the end, and Benjamin Soko will come back in his, well, return race in P7.
Great races throughout the field. That's the last of our battles. Everybody coming across the line, single file behind them. So with that, we're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews. If you stick around on screen, you'll see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Virginia International Raceway. We just watched round 3 here of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series. Mick Claridge takes his 3rd win of the season. But Olenek has certainly shown that he is someone to watch out for, not just on track, but in the championship itself. Less than half a second between them at the line. Gary Teal had a similar fight to take 3rd. He started 5th, but took advantage of others' misfortune, including the likes of Ove Trangrade, who started on the front row and has to settle for 4th place. Was much faster than Teal, but could not find his way by. Hugh Kaycox, a great run to 5th place. Same thing for Ian. His father went from 11th on the grid to 6th out there today. Ben Zoko, who may have botched his qualifying, did pretty well in the race itself, finishing 7th place, and Phil Lake took 8th behind him. Daniel Sadro wound up with P9. Grant Petullo, we completely missed the recovery drive he had to make after his incident with Phil Lake at the start. He wound up in the top 10.
Another driver that we didn't really talk about today, Bruce Nelson. He comes home in P11, gaining 6 positions during the race. 6 positions gained also for Francisco Javier Gutierrez. He comes home in P12. Few drivers that were a lap down at the end. Andrew Eng home in P13, Hideki Kofisto in P14, and Robert Reynolds in P15. And then 4 retirees out there today at VIR. Colin Coker classified 16th. Armin Weber, after his big off in the SS, only comes home in P17. Marco Kika, Matt Wright, they probably expected a lot more from this race. Both started inside the top 10, but are only finishing P18 and P19 here.
We've got one of our podium finishers ready to talk to us, Gary Teal, who had some great fights out there that we caught. Gary, looked like a little bit of staying out of trouble while others did helped you up into 3rd, but then some immaculate defense kept you that position. Gary, do you have a copy? Oh, looks like maybe we don't have Gary with his mic hooked up quite yet. Give him just another moment to see if he's answering. And looks like Gary, unfortunately, not ready to talk to us. So we'll let him have a chance to fumble around with his mic. In the meantime, looks like Johan is caught up with our winner, Mick Claridge.
Yeah, Mick, welcome to the booth. You started the race P1, you finished the race in P1, but that really doesn't tell the story, because what a battle that was out there with Rob Olenek.
Oh, that was the toughest race. Honestly, I say that a lot, but this one takes it. 122 degrees on track. It was, I feel like we've just tested out the new wet track model, for iRacing. It was unbelievable. I just couldn't get the power down anywhere. I was braking early, and you're in trouble when you brake for turn 1 and you see your delta time going, up by about 3 tenths. You've messed up.
Yeah, we were seeing that during the race, that you save 122 degrees Fahrenheit, over 50 degrees Celsius out there today. What can you do as a driver when you suddenly are thrown into track conditions like this? Because I remember looking at you during practice before the race, you were around 2 seconds per lap quicker there. So this track state was completely different as what you were used to this morning. How do you prepare for that when you come into a session that is this hot?
Well, it wasn't quite that much of a gap. It was, I had a bit of a gap on Rob in practice, and over just, and so I just ran normal tire pressures, and then when we came into the servo, you must have seen the guys putting on the chat, sorry language, look at the track temperature, and I just ran normal tire pressures, thinking that they would be all right, and you probably know yourself, iRacing's a bit backwards with tyre pressures, so should have run higher tyre pressures, because you just can't get any couldn't get any heat into the tyres, if that sounds weird, at 122 degrees. But you can't put the power down, you can't do anything, and as soon as you put a bit too much power down, that's it. The tyres have overheated for a good sort of 4 or 5 corners. So it just reminded me back of the old V8 supercar days when that car came out. It was eggshell, throttle eggshell.
You managed to beat the eggshells at least and come home here in P1. Now, you and Rob, you're really the story of this season. You're together at the top of the championship again here at VIR. You're at top of the race together all the time, fighting with each other. Do you really think that Rob will be the driver to beat for you if you want to get another championship in the Lotus 49?
You're missing Roman today. Don't forget Roman. He's seriously on pace. I think he came yesterday second behind Rob. It was only about a second in it. So Roman's up there as well. The guys are just getting quicker. And as far as goes for Rob, I mean, he runs this. He runs the Audi GTO. He runs the Lotus 79. He was in last week. These are the true guys of the true aliens of this sport. They really are. I can't do it. There's no way I can get in 3 different cars and be on pace. So hats off, fair play to him.
Very good. Well, congratulations out there with your win. Enjoy the champagne, and we'll hope to see you again next week at Bathurst.
Cheers, guys. Yeah, see you next week.
It was Mick Claridge, our winner today. Well, we'll go one step lower on the podium as Joe talks with Rob.
Yes, last week it was Ove Trangrade that was threatening Mick the whole way around. This week it was Rob, but it looked like it is incredibly difficult to pass here, and I'm sure the low grip didn't help that either.
Oh yeah, it's really hard to pass. The one time I got really close coming into Bitch Corner, I think it's called. I can't believe he held that line. I thought like the braking would have been off for him or something, and then looked over and he's still right there beside me. But man, that was fun.
It certainly looked fun, and you continued to apply pressure all the way around. Now, obviously, you've had a very good season here. You've got a couple second places. You've got a win under your belt. I mean, the drop weeks are obviously going to steer this back in favor of Mick Claridge a little bit. But I mean, how do you approach the rest of this season, seeing you've not only been able to take advantage of others' mistakes, but have really actually gotten on pace with the fastest drivers?
Mick's helped me a lot with the setup of the car, which I think made a big difference on my pace, which is awesome that he would do something like that. And I don't know. I'm going to try to win it. I mean, he's going to be missing a couple weeks towards the end of the season, I think. And then he already had that 1 week out where he got crashed out at Zuba or something like that. So that's kind of 3 for him already. So even if he does kind of average better than me, I got a shot if I can just keep finishing really high.
This will be phenomenal stuff, considering your performance over in Camel as well. Congratulations on a second place, and thanks for an exciting race from our perspective.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I'll see you next week.
And I believe Johan has Ben Zoko ready to talk to us, who certainly had his excitement.
Yeah, well, I think that we can brand Benjamin Mr. Excitement after the race that he had today. Benjamin, welcome to the booth. What a race you had. You started as one of the drivers that didn't have a qualifying time, but you just blasted through the race, gaining 9 positions. How was that for you?
That was exciting, and that was the plan. I had about 15 minutes practice all week. For this is the only race I've done this week. I haven't been able to get a race in, so I had about 15 minutes practice, and I decided that I think it would be a bit more fun if I started from the back, and I was right. It was a lot of fun. I had a good battle with Daniel, I think, and then I had a lot of trouble trying to keep Phil at bay because man, it got close a couple times.
Yeah, it was only 1/10 of a second in the end. Now, you mentioned your battle with Daniel Cedro. At one point, you also got by him and then immediately lost the position again. Something happened in the SS. What exactly happened there from your perspective? Was it just the track temperature, the track state just catching you out, or was there something else?
It was I hit the curb too hard and I couldn't land it. I mean, I think there's some time to be gained by cutting those curbs through there, but again, as I didn't have any much practice, I hadn't really nailed down the proper line through there. And I think on the cool down lap, I think I did. I was like thinking, oh well, Phil was really gaining on me through there. do something better. And I tried a little bit of sort of trail braking through there and staying off the curbs, and I think it was faster. So yeah, just lacking some practice here. But yeah, I was looking at the split times, and I was really hoping I'd be able to catch up to the Haycock's father and son duo out there, and that was my goal. But I couldn't quite get there because of all the pressure in those battles and too many mistakes.
Well, as always, next week when we go to Bathurst. Now, just real quick before I let you go, you mentioned that you didn't have a lot of practice coming into this race. We already talked about it with Mick, but immense track temperature here today, over 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Was it difficult for you as well to come into a session like that with a little practice, or did it actually help you because you were not used to a track with a lot lower temperature?
The temperatures in this place don't really ever bother me. I don't know what to do with tire pressures to make it good or bad. I just literally grabbed a setup off VRS from Mick that looked like it was from Rob. So hats off to whoever had the set. I didn't have enough time to play with it. I do normally prefer a little bit of more rear brake balance than those guys, and I think that was hurting my confidence a little bit in the braking zones. But I prefer it slippery and hot. I don't know why. I don't think I'm any faster or slower. I just prefer it. So yeah, I just try to adapt to whatever conditions they are, and go as fast as possible without coming off the track.
Well, it was certainly visible that you feel like a fish in the water in these weather conditions. Thank you for talking with us, and congratulations with your great recovery race, great overtaking race out here at VIR.
Yeah, it was good fun. Thanks, GSRC. See you next time.
That was Benjamin Soko talking with us. He finishes P7. Now, in the meantime, Joe, you have Gary Thiel once again.
Yeah, let's see if we've got him mic'd up. Gary, do you have a copy? Oh, looks like maybe Gary, unfortunately, was not able to sort things out in the interim. It was a very well-earned podium, we must say. It's a shame that we doesn't look like we'll get to talk to Gary. Definitely commend him on what is an incredible defense that he used to be able to hold on to P3. It is going to close us out, though, and we want to give another thank you to the Lotus 49 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage, and to iRacing for putting us on the iRacing Esports Network. Again, we highly encourage everyone, if you've been enjoying this content, to subscribe to IESN. All you got to do is go to their YouTube page and click the big red button that says subscribe. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast. You can see them listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go out to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Johan, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. The next race is going to Bathurst, Australia. That'll be Saturday, April 13th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.